So we're celebrating Jesus Christ, the King of the universe. And you think about the expansiveness of all creation, and we realize that you and I are less than a little speck in comparison to the vastness of all creation. It's possible that this Jesus Christ, the King of the universe, might not exactly mean a whole lot, because what am I? Less than a speck. But it's a serious feast. And if we take a look at what Jesus says in the gospel, he can help us unpack that as far as what it means for our own lives. He says three things, basically. The first one he says is, are you saying this on your own, or did somebody tell you about me? Well, if you unpack that, what Jesus wants to know is Pilate seeking him personally, or is just hearsay? And for Pilate, we found out it was hearsay. But there is something that needs to happen in us if we are really going to belong to God's kingdom. And that is that we not just listen to what people say, but also that we put our own hearts into it. It's not to say that we don't tell people about Jesus. That's part of evangelization. That's part of witnessing to our faith, to what we believe. But in order to do that, we need to say, I'm saying this on my own. I have come to know you. You are important in my life. You influence, you touch my life and what I think and how I live. I'm with you. It's the personal part. I think the most important part that we need to do on our own. Yes, you're mine. You're in my life. I am letting you touch me because you do in a powerful way. That's the first thing he says. The second thing he says is that my kingdom does not belong to this world. His kingdom is not material. So, what do we have in this world, the material world? Well, the kingdoms in this world, first of all, have territory, have boundaries. Somebody's in and somebody's out. Now, I'm not saying it's not important to have borders and at least to some degree maintain them. I'm not saying that. That's what, but it's the attitude that some are in and some are out. And those that are out, we will only respect you so far as is good for me. It's to our self-interest. That's not Jesus' kingdom. Jesus' kingdom is that everybody is in. We're all sons and daughters of God, and we belong together. And when we put people out and don't respect them and don't reach out in a compassionate way to help others, then we put ourselves out of his kingdom. Because he says, like in the first reading, it said that all nations, all kingdoms, all languages belong to me in my dominion. We're not making this up. It is who we are. So to belong to God's kingdom, we have to have a more inclusive kind of an attitude and an inclusive kind of actions. And that's not the only thing, but also in this kingdom, which is not material, what we need to recognize is that a lot of the kingdoms of this world are established by military power, by force, so often by hostility and violence, and they're maintained by force. How many wars have we had in the history of the world? I don't know, but it's more than a couple. Hundreds and thousands of wars over the history, establishing by force. Well, Jesus' kingdom is not that kind of a kingdom. He doesn't establish it by the power of force and mere brute strength. He establishes his kingdom by the power of love. That's what's most powerful in our lives. Or let me ask you this to make sure it's true for you. Who has had the most positive influence in your life? Somebody who could make you do what they wanted you to do, or someone who has loved you without question? I know who's had the most important influence on my life as those who have loved me through it all. Now that, to me, is power. It is the power of God in his kingdom, in this not worldly kingdom, but the kingdom in this world, but not of it. And the third thing about this material kingdom is, it says that it's not all that committed to the truth. Jesus says, I have come to speak the truth. Unless I got it wrong, and I'm really way off, the truth seems hard to come by these days. Disinformation, misinformation, flat out lies. Coming from Russia, coming from our own country. In fact, within the last week or so, I watched an interview in which one of our prominent politicians said, well, I tell the truth when I can. Does that make any sense to you? I tell the truth when I can? Well, what's the point? Truth is a convenience? Jesus says, this is why I came, for the truth. The truth is that God loves us beyond all measure. The truth is that he is forgiving and will always take us back. The truth is that he has a place for us. That's the truth. And Jesus says, I will speak the truth and I will live and die for the truth. And he did. It's not a convenience. What's true is true, and he lived and died for it. That's the power of God's kingdom. And lastly, his kingdom is forever. How many kingdoms have we had throughout the history of the world? I can't count. Hundreds, probably thousands. How many have lasted over 2,000 years of history? 0. And if we think in our country that we're going to last forever and ever, amen, as the most powerful kingdom in the world and it's just not going to be shaken, we don't know history, do we? And oftentimes, kingdoms fall from the inside, not from the outside. That they rot from the inside. And you can debate on this if you want, but as I see the seeds of that rot already in our country. We can't talk to one another. There's no sense of common purpose. There's no sense of compromise. If that's not the seeds of rot, I don't know what is. The kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. So Jesus' kingdom is a kingdom that is based on the truth and based on love. And it's something that will never end. It has lasted for 2,000 years in the hearts and in the lives of the people who follow Jesus Christ. I might have said this before, but it still affects me. Over 20 years ago, I was sent to Africa to work with the friars. And when I was there, I went to a mass that the friars had, and one of the presider at mass asked the folks, he said, what are you most thankful for? Asking the poorest of the poor of the world. It's like, but this one lady says, I have been robbed 3 times. I've never had much anything, and I've been robbed of what little I had. So, what I am thankful for is my faith, because nobody can take that away from me. It lasts forever. That's the kind of kingdom we're talking about when we're talking about Jesus Christ, the King of the universe. That kind of a kingdom which is personal, which has the power of love, which lasts forever, dedicated to the truth of God's love for us. What remains for us is our response. And for us to say, you are the center of my life. Jesus Christ, I follow you.